What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Spill the Real, the home of unfiltered conversations and real-world truth, right here on Sugar Water Radio.
Hey, everyone!
Now, today's deep dive it's a little different.
Yeah, it really is.
This isn't the usual breaking news.
Nope, not trending gossip.
This is something much deeper, something that, frankly, was never meant for us to see.
That's the key right there. It was meant to be kept in-house.
We're going all the way back to 1954. To a film called The Secret of Selling the Negro.
And just that title alone tells you so much.
It really does. This was a corporate training video made for boardrooms, for executives, not for black people, but about black people.
And here's the part that should really make you pause.
Go on.
People will look at this and say, oh, that's history. It's outdated.
Right, that was then, this is now.
But in 2026, the methods, the entire mindset behind it, it's all still alive. It's just been upgraded.
So we're talking from Ebony Magazine back then to, TikTok algorithms today.
Exactly. From print ads to AI-driven manipulation, the core question has not changed one bit.
And that question is, how do you identify a people's culture, their psychology, their spending power,
and profit from it without ever giving them ownership?
That is what we are spilling today.
We're talking about money.
We're talking about power.
And we are definitely talking about how the black mind was and still is shaped, redirected, and conditioned.
And why, decades after Jim Crow, we're still fighting the same economic battles, just in different packaging.
This conversation, look, it might make you uncomfortable.
And that's not an accident.
Because comfort has never, ever created change.
It's your hosts, Dana Lucen and Mark Miller, and today on Spill the Real, we're breaking down what the history books just skim over.
What the algorithms definitely won't explain.
And why black economic unity has always been the real threat.
So if you're new here, welcome. We're glad to have you.
And if you've been rocking with us, you already know how we move.
This isn't about being angry.
No, this is about being aware.
Yeah.
So lock in with us.
Turn it up.
And stay with us. Because I promise you, once you see the system this clearly,
you can't unsee it.
Let's spill the real.
So, Dana, to really get this, we have to, mentally travel back in time.
Okay.
We can't just look at this as some video file on a laptop. We have to put ourselves in the room where this film was actually shown.
Right. Set the scene for me then. Because when I hear 1954 corporate training video, I'm picturing something super dry, maybe a little dusty.
No. Think extremely high stakes.
Okay.
Picture a boardroom. Midtown Manhattan, maybe Chicago. Heavy mahogany table, air thick with cigar smoke.
I can see it.
And the room is just filled with white men in those gray flannel suits. The original Mad Men.
Right. The gatekeepers.
The absolute gatekeepers of American advertising. And at the front of that room, you've got representatives from the Johnson Publishing Company about to press play.
And we should probably pause right there. For anyone younger who might not know the history, Johnson Publishing is, it's iconic.
The most iconic. We're talking about John H. Johnson, the man who founded Ebony and Jet magazines.
Pillars of the community.
Absolutely. By 1954, he is the black media mogul. But he's got a huge problem.
Which is?
He has this massive, loyal audience of black readers, but the big white corporations. They won't buy ads in his magazines.
They don't see the value.
They don't see the money. So Johnson produces this film, The Secret of Selling the Negro, as a tool, a literal sales pitch to educate white corporate America on a very simple fact.
That black people
spend money.
It sounds so wild that you'd have to make a whole film to convince a business that a group of people have money. But we're talking 1954.
Let's put it in context.
Yeah.
Brown v. Board of Education, the Supreme Court decision that desegregated schools, that was May of 1954, the same year.
So the whole country is a powder keg of racial tension.
Exactly. Segregation is the law of the land in huge parts of the country. The tension is real. And right in the middle of all that, you have this incredibly polished film trying to tell these executives, hey, forget the politics for a minute.
Just look at the cash.
Just look at the cash.
And the footage we're digging into, we should give a shout out. The source material notes, this is from Real Black One.
Oh, massively important. Real Black One is an archive, and they are dedicated to preserving African-American film history.
And that's so key. Archives matter.
Hugely. Without archivists digging these old reels out of, basements and warehouses, transferring them from acetate to digital, this history just rots. It disappears.
I literally wouldn't be having this conversation.
Not at all. So what we're watching is a digital transfer of a physical film reel that was probably meant to be locked away in a corporate library forever.
Okay, so I'm watching it, And the first thing that strikes me is the production value. It's surprisingly high. It doesn't look cheap.
Not at all. It looks like a Hollywood movie from the 50s.
It does. You see the whole behind-the-scenes setup. The lights, the cameras, the crew. It all feels very official.
And that had to be a strategic choice, right?
How so?
Johnson Publishing needed to project competence and, frankly, wealth. They couldn't walk in there with a shaky, handheld camera film.
They had to look more professional than the people they were pitching to.
Exactly. And the narrator they picked, this guy Bob Trout, he wasn't some nobody. He was a heavyweight radio newsman. He had that classic voice of God broadcast tone.
He really does. He walks right on screen, looks into the camera, and he says, I've got a story here that I think is big, really big.
And the way he says it, he's not talking about civil rights.
No, he's talking about a gold mine.
He's pitching the discovery. He frames the entire black population of America not as a social issue, not as a political problem,
But as a new market.
a new market. And then he drops the number that must have just sucked all the air out of that boardroom.
$15 billion.
$15 billion.
In 1954.
In 1954 money.
I'm trying to do the inflation math in my head. That's not just a lot of money. That's nation-state money.
It is. It was roughly equal to the entire national income of Canada at the time.
That's insane.
And Trout says, and this is the killer line, it's right here in our own front yard.
He's basically scolding them.
Gently, yes. He's saying, you guys are looking all over the world for new markets. You're looking everywhere else, but you are totally ignoring the people who live like 3 miles from your office.
But he does acknowledge why they're ignoring it. He uses this very polite 1950s phrase. He says it's because of mistaken ideas.
Which is the greatest euphemism for racism I think I've ever heard.
It really is. Mistaken ideas.
But this is where the film gets so smart, so strategic. It doesn't just say you're wrong or you're racist. It uses their own weapon against them. Data. Hard numbers.
Yeah, and they bring in this specific guy, Daniel Starch. The source material highlights him. Who was he in that world?
Daniel Starch was a legend in marketing research, a total giant. He basically invented the Starch test, which was a way to measure how effective print ads were.
So he was the numbers guy.
He was the data god of the 1950s. So by hiring his firm to do the research on black consumers, Johnson Publishing was speaking the language of those executives.
Right. They weren't saying, trust us, we're black, we know our people.
No. They were saying, trust the white scientist you all already worship. He did the math, and he says we have money.
That is some 4D chess right there.
It had to be. There was no other way in.
Okay, so let's get into these mistaken ideas, because the film just lists them out. It's like a checklist of stereotypes from the era.
It is.
The first one they tackle is the drifter myth. The narrator literally says the quiet part out loud. I don't like to do business with Negroes. They're drifters.
The perception was that black people were transient.
Ugh.
You know, that they moved around all the time, they didn't put down roots, and so they weren't stable customers worth investing in.
Which is so ironic if you know anything about the Great Migration. People were moving, but they were moving to settle, to build lives.
Exactly. For stability and work. And the film just smacks that myth down with a statistic from the U.S. Census Bureau.
What was it?
1 out of every 3 Negro families in cities own their own home.
1 in 3.
In the city, in 1954.
Think about the barriers to that. Redlining was in full effect.
Yeah.
Racist housing covenants. The FHA wasn't giving loans for black neighborhoods.
And still, 33% ownership. That stat had to be a bomb drop in that room. It just proved stability, community.
Okay, so then they move on to the next one, the money myth.
Right.
The idea that Negroes are poor credit risks, which basically means don't lend to them, don't let them buy things on an installment plan because they'll just disappear and you'll never get your money.
And to debunk this, they bring in another big, conservative, very white organization, the National Association of Real Estate Boards.
Yeah, and what did their data show?
It showed that black home buyers met their payments faithfully. And not just that, but often more faithfully than white buyers in the exact same economic bracket.
Okay, hold on, though. I have to push back a little.
Yeah.
Is that presented as a good thing?
Yeah.
Because it sounds to me like, of course they paid more faithfully.
Go on.
They had no choice. If a white guy misses a payment in 1954, maybe he gets a warning, a second chance. If a black family misses one single payment.
They're on the street. No questions asked.
So is this really financial responsibility or is it just abject fear?
That's the critical question, and you're 100% right. It is fear. It's a total lack of options. If there's only one bank in the city that will even give you a loan, you do not burn that bridge.
You starve before you miss that payment.
You do. But the genius of the film is that it takes that desperation, that survival instinct, and it flips it. It presents it to the white man as a business benefit.
Look how reliable they are.
You can make money off of this reliability. They literally commodified the fear of homelessness.
That's dark. Exploit their fear because it makes them a great debtor.
Welcome to capitalism in America.
Okay, let's hit the third myth, because this is the one that really starts to transition into the psychology of it all.
Right.
The myth was Negroes buy shoddy, poor quality merchandise. The assumption being that black people only want the cheap stuff. They don't care about the premium brands.
And the film just says completely false. In proportion to their income, black consumers actually bought more quality products, more brand names than other groups.
And this is where they start flexing the stats from the Ebony Readership Survey, the one done by Daniel Starch.
Yep. The numbers are wild.
Listen to this. For 1954, 51% owned record players. 64% owned television sets.
A TV was a major purchase back then. That was high tech.
A huge purchase.
Yeah.
And 78% owned electric refrigerators.
Again, a status symbol, a sign of modern living.
Then they dropped the education stat. College enrollment up 2,500% since 1930.
What they're doing is painting a very specific picture. They're creating a new archetype in the minds of those executives. The class Negro market. That was the term they used.
The class Negro market.
They had to prove this wasn't just a market of sharecroppers and laborers. It was a market of sophistication, of aspiration.
But why? Why did they have to prove they were sophisticated just to be allowed to buy, soap or a car?
Because in the white corporate imagination of the 1950s, black people were servants, not consumers.
What's the difference?
A servant uses what you give them. A consumer makes a choice. This film was a deliberate attempt to elevate the black image in the white mind to the level of customer. And in America, being a customer is a form of citizenship.
The customer is always right. The customer is king.
There you go. So if you can prove you're a customer, maybe you get treated like a king. Or at the very least.
You get treated like a human being.
Or at least you don't get ignored anymore.
Yeah.
And we have to be clear, the source material really emphasizes this point. This film was not about activism.
It wasn't about civil rights.
No. This was not let my people go. This was let my people shop. The secret they were selling wasn't equality. The secret was profit.
Okay, so the door is cracked open.
Right.
The executives in the boardroom are listening. They see the $15 billion figure. Now the film pivots.
It does.
It stops being about spreadsheets and starts being about psychology. They bring in these, sales psychologists to explain how to get that money.
And they identify one single word. The key to the whole kingdom.
Yeah.
The secret word.
And that word is?
Recognition.
Recognition. It sounds so harmless, like a participation trophy. But break down what they really meant by that in the context of 1954.
It is a profoundly deep psychological insight. But the film's logic is this. Every single human being has a fundamental need to feel important, to be seen.
Okay, that's basic human nature.
But they argue the Negro customer is walking around with a massive deficit of importance. Every single day, society tells him he is nothing. The laws tell him he's second class. The culture ignores him.
So he has this gaping psychological wound, a hunger to be validated.
A hunger to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be recognized as a person of value. And the film looks at that wound and tells advertisers.
You can fill that hole with your product.
You can sell a salve for that trauma.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you treat him with respect in your advertisement, if your salesman acknowledges him in your store, he will give you his loyalty forever.
And they show specific examples of how this plays out in buying behavior.
They do.
One is brand loyalty. The film makes a huge point that black customers would ask for products by their specific brand name. They didn't want the generic store brand.
And the reason for it is just heartbreakingly logical.
Explain.
The film says it directly. For a long time, the Negro has been sold a lot of shardy second-class merchandise.
Right.
So if you're a black shopper in the Jim Crow South and you just ask for a bag of flour, the white grocer might just give you the stuff from the bottom of the barrel. The stuff with weevils in it.
He's going to give you what he thinks you deserve.
But if you walk in and ask for gold medal flour in the sealed printed bag,
you know exactly what you're getting.
The brand name was a shield. It was a form of protection against being cheated.
So you can't trust the merchant, but you can trust the factory seal.
Yeah.
Quality as protection.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. But then there's the other side of it, the social approval piece. The film has this scene with a black woman buying fine crystal glassware, not just regular cups, fine crystal. And the narrator says, she isn't just buying a glass. She is buying the admiration of friends.
Influence of the opinions of others. That's the exact phrase they use to describe the motivation.
Is that, I don't know, Mark, that feels a little bit like they're pathologizing it. Like they're saying, oh, look at these insecure people. They need fancy crystal to feel good about themselves.
That's a fantastic pushback.
I mean, rich white people buy crystal to show off all the time, right?
Yeah.
Why is it a defense mechanism only when black people do it?
You're right. Conspicuous consumption is universal. The Vanderbilts built mansions to show off. But the film is arguing that for the black consumer in 1954, the stakes were fundamentally different. A wealthy white person buys crystal to say, I'm rich. The film argues that a black person in that era buys crystal to say, I'm human.
Wow.
Or to say, I have made it despite everything this country has done to stop me. It is status signaling, yes, but when you're in a community that is constantly under siege, status is also proof of survival. It's proof of resilience.
Okay, I can see that. It's not just, look what I have. It's, look what I've overcome.
Precisely. I'm still here, and I'm thriving enough to drink out of this ridiculously expensive glass.
And that ties into the warning they give the salesman about the bait and switch.
Right, where you go into a store asking for one thing, and the salesperson tries to sell you a cheaper, different brand.
Usually that's just a sales tactic. This one's on sale or whatever.
But the film says to a white salesman, for a black customer, do not do it. Because the immediate thought in that customer's mind is not, oh, he's trying to save me money.
The thought is, does he think I can't afford the good one?
Does he think I'm poor? Does he think I'm not good enough for the best product? It's not a financial calculation. It's an insult. It triggers that recognition wound all over again.
So they basically hand these white salesmen a playbook. And some of it is just, basic human decency. Don't patronize.
It's stuff that should be obvious.
But then they get really specific. Rule number 1, address the customer as Mr. or Mrs.
Which we have to remember in that era was radical.
Yeah.
In the South, a 60-year-old black man was called boy by a 20-year-old white kid. A black woman was called by her first name or auntie.
So to have a white man in a suit say, good morning, Mrs. Johnson, how may I help you? That was a transaction of dignity.
It is a powerful one. And the film is saying, give them that dignity and they will literally give you their money.
But then there's the ignore strategy. This is the part that really got me. It's so cynical.
It's amazing.
The film actually advises the salesman to avoid talking about race, religion, politics, or even Negro celebrities.
And the rationale they give is, who cares? When a guy's in business, he's interested in making a living.
The irony is just suffocating.
It's unbelievable.
We just spent 20 minutes dissecting the racial psychology of the black consumer. We just admitted they are buying specific products to heal the specific wounds of racism. And then the advice is, but whatever you do, for God's sake, don't mention the racism.
It is the ultimate form of sterile transactional capitalism. They want the black dollar, but they do not want the black reality that comes with it.
They want the transaction to be clean.
Perfectly clean. I will sell you this expensive crystal to make you feel better, but I refuse to discuss why you need to feel better in the first place. It lets the white salesman profit from the system without ever having to acknowledge his role in creating or maintaining it.
That is the definition of the secret.
It's
knowing everything about a person so you can sell to them while simultaneously pretending you don't see who they are at all.
That is the perfect bridge. Because it's so easy to sit here and watch those grainy black and white reels and say, wow, 1954 was a wild time. Glad we're past all that.
But we're not past it.
We are not past it. The film reels are gone. The mahogany boardrooms are now glass conference rooms. But the fundamental mechanism, it just got a massive upgrade.
And this is where we spill the reel on 2026, because the Source article makes a really bold comparison. It says, TikTok is the new Ebony.
Let's really unpack that, because on the surface, they seem like total opposites.
Right. Ebony was this polished, curated monthly magazine. TikTok is this chaotic, infinite, user-generated video feed.
But functionally, in terms of what they do for an advertiser trying to reach a specific demographic, they are identical.
Okay, explain. In 1954, if you wanted to reach that class Negro market, you had to go to Ebony or Jet.
It was the aggregator. It was the only place where all those eyeballs were gathered in one spot. It was the cultural watering hole.
It was where the culture was talking to itself, so advertisers had to go there.
Yeah.
Fish where the fish are.
Precisely. But today, The fish aren't all in one pond. We don't all read the same magazine or watch the same 3 TV channels.
The media landscape is shattered into a billion tiny pieces. So how is TikTok the new aggregator?
Because TikTok aggregates the culture algorithmically. It doesn't need a physical magazine. It uses your behavior to build the magazine for you in real time.
This is what the source calls precision influence.
Think about the difference. In 1954, Daniel Starch and his team, they had to go door to door with clipboards, asking people what they bought. It was slow. It was broad.
It was a guess. Oh, you're a black woman living in Chicago. You probably like these 3 things.
It was an educated guess, but a guess nonetheless. And now
Corporations do not guess.
They track. They know what video you watched. They know how long you paused on it down to the millisecond. They know if you shared it, who you shared it with. They use sentiment analysis on the comments to know if a video made you happy or angry or nostalgia.
So they don't need to place an ad in a magazine anymore. They just need to find the Black Girl Magic hashtag or the Black Tech hashtag or even the Black Trauma hashtag.
And insert their product directly and seamlessly into that feed. And the article points out something critical. In 1954, the ad was next to the article.
In 2026, the content is the ad.
That's the upgrade, which leads to this idea of trust transfer.
Trust transfer. Okay, break that down.
It's the modern version of that influence of the opinions of others from the film. If you see a generic corporate ad for a new skincare product, you might just scroll right past it.
Right. It's just noise.
But if your favorite creator, someone who looks like you, talks like you, uses the same slang as you, someone you feel like you know personally, if they're on screen using that product and loving it,
the trust you have in them is transferred to the brand.
It's weaponized intimacy. It's incredibly effective.
So in 1954, the secret was treat them with basic respect, call them Mr. and Mrs., and they will buy from you.
And in 2026, the new secret is reflect their specific cultural identity back to them with pinpoint accuracy, and they will buy from you.
But here's where it gets really sticky, and the source goes into this. Brands now use everything. They use black joy, black slang, black aesthetics.
And black trauma. Black activism.
Right. We see it every February. We see it every June. The corporate logos all turn red, black, and green. They use footage from protests in their sneaker commercials.
But do they change their board of directors? Do they invest in black-owned supply chains? Do they promote black executives at the same rate?
Usually, no.
It's mining. In 1954, they were identifying a new market to sell to. In 2026, they are mining a natural resource. And that resource is black creativity, black pain, and black emotion.
It's that same recognition wound all over again. We are still so hungry to be seen accurately.
We are.
So when an algorithm serves you a video that just gets you, it feels good, you feel seen. Right below that video is the Shop Now button.
And we get the quick dopamine hit of recognition, but the social media platform gets the data and the corporation gets the cash. The exchange is, and always has been, lopsided.
And that leads us to the deepest, darkest part of this whole conversation, the unspoken part, the thing the 1954 film hinted at, but would never, ever say out loud.
The part that explains why the wealth gap is still so massive, even though Black Americans spend trillions of dollars every year.
The article calls it the economics of containment.
This is the real secret. This is the part that, once you understand it, changes how you see everything. The system was never designed to stop Black people from spending money.
That's a huge distinction. I think a lot of people think racism is just about exclusion. You can't come in here. You can't buy this.
That was the old model. That was the whites only sign on the door. That was Jim Crow. But the Jim Crow economic model that the source describes is far more sophisticated.
It shifted from whites only to consumer dependency.
Yes. Think of the American economy like a giant casino.
Okay, I like this analogy.
In the old days, under strict segregation, Black people weren't even allowed inside the casino. They had to stand outside. But under the economic containment model, the doors are thrown wide open.
Come on in.
Come on in. You are welcomed. You get the free drinks. You get the VIP treatment at the high roller tables. Why?
Because the house always wins.
Because the house knows the math. As long as you were playing their games, on their tables, using their chips, the money always, eventually, ends up back in the vault.
So you feel like a high roller because you're spending all this money.
But you are actually just a predictable revenue stream.
The source material has these slogans for the casino: buy, don't build, flex, don't invest.
And the big one, credit over capital.
Credit over capital.
Yeah.
That one hits hard because we are taught to confuse the two. We think having an 800 credit score and a high-limit credit card is wealth.
It's not. Credit is the ability to borrow someone else's money. Capital is owning the money yourself. If you are a great credit risk, it just means you are a very profitable asset for the bank. You are generating wealth for them.
Go back to the 1954 film. What was one of the key selling points?
They pay their bills faithfully. They were celebrating the fact that Black people were excellent at being debtors.
You're allowed to spend as much as you want. You are encouraged to buy the best brands, the luxury items.
But you are very rarely positioned to own the means of production.
You can buy the Jordans, but you can't own the factory. You can use the iPhone, but you don't own the Apple stock that built generational wealth for others.
Exactly. Real power, the source says, starts with ownership, land, businesses, media platforms, distribution networks, technology. The trap is thinking that buying power is the same as power.
And we hear that term all the time. The Black buying power is $1.7 trillion, or whatever the number is this year.
Buying power just means you have the ability to give your money away very efficiently. It's the power to enrich someone else.
Wow.
True power is the ability to create, hold, and grow wealth. If you have $1.7 trillion of buying power and you spend all of it at businesses you do not own, at the end of the year, how much power do you actually have?
Zero. You're back at zero.
And the source points to the modern result of this. We have cultural dominance. I mean, you look anywhere in the world. Music, style, language, fashion. It is all driven by Black culture.
We are the engine of global cool. There's no question.
But where's the equity? Where's the ownership?
Minimal generational wealth compared to the massive cultural output. We see the influence everywhere, but we don't see the control.
And this brings us to the real threat. The thing the system is actually afraid of. The threat of unity.
The source talks about a one extra time theory. I'll make sure we explain this clearly because it sounds so simple, but the impact is revolutionary.
It's a basic economic multiplier theory. In many other communities, let's take the Jewish community or certain Asian American communities as examples, a dollar will circulate multiple times before it leaves that community.
Right. I own the bakery, I buy my flour from you, you pay your rent to a landlord in the community, that landlord hires a local painter.
And that $1 just did the work of $5 or $10. It built a microeconomy.
It created wealth.
In the Black community, for historical reasons, because of this containment model and a lack of owned businesses, that dollar leaves almost immediately. You get paid on Friday, you go to the big box store or the national chain restaurant, and poof, the money is gone.
So the one extra time theory is just make it stay for one more transaction.
Just one. You don't have to become a total separatist. You don't have to grow all your own food. Just be intentional enough to make sure that one extra transaction happens with a Black-owned business before the dollar leaves.
And if everyone did that?
Neighborhoods would transform, schools would get better because the local tax base would stabilize, and political leverage would follow because politicians listen to unified economic blocs.
So the argument from the source is that the system isn't afraid of our anger. It's not afraid of protests. We can march all day long.
The source is very explicit. The system fears economic independence. Anger can be managed. Protests can be waited out. A corporation can put a black square on its Instagram and wait for the news cycle to blow over.
But economic unity.
Economic unity forces a negotiation. If you control your own supply chain, if you control your own capital flow, you cannot be ignored. You have to be dealt with as an equal.
That is the real secret, the one they didn't put in the film. The film was about how to get the money out of our pockets. The revolution is about keeping it in.
And that's why this awareness is so critical. It's not just about knowing what happened in 1954. It's about looking at your phone today and asking a simple question.
Am I the customer or am I the product?
That's the one.
Okay, so let's pivot to the final segment, awareness as power. Because we can't just leave people feeling angry or defeated. We've spilled the real on the problem. Let's spill it on the strategy.
The first step, the source says, is just to reframe the whole narrative. You can't live in the modern world and completely opt out of the market. You need a phone, you need toothpaste.
Right. I am not weaving my own clothes, let's be real.
Exactly. But you can start to buy intentionally. Stop the impulse buying that's triggered by that need for recognition. Before you click buy, just ask yourself, am I buying this because I truly need it or because the ad made me feel seen?
That requires a level of self-awareness. That is hard to practice. You have to catch yourself in that moment.
It is. It requires breaking that spell they've spent 70 years casting.
The next move. Invest strategically.
This is the shift from credit to capital, even if it's small. The mindset has to shift from what can I buy to what can I own? And that leads to supporting businesses with purpose, which helps circulate the dollar.
And this is the one that really stood out to me. This is the big one. Stop confusing representation with respect.
That is the core lesson of the entire 1954 film, upgraded for 2026.
Yeah.
Seeing a black face in a commercial or a popular black creator on TikTok, that is representation. And it feels good. It feels like progress.
But unless there is actual ownership and equity behind that face, it is not respect, it is marketing.
It's the modern version of being called Mr. or Mrs. It feels good, but it's a sales tactic.
That is such a hard distinction for people to make, though, because we are so starved for positive representation. We cheer when we see the commercial because we think, finally, we made it.
And we should celebrate genuine progress. But we cannot mistake the advertisement for the victory. The victory is equity. The victory is being in the boardroom, not just on the billboard.
The final lesson from the source is simply knowing when you are being sold to and consciously choosing ownership instead.
That is the shield. That is the defense. When you're scrolling your feed and you see that ad that seems to know the deepest parts of your soul, you can just whisper to yourself, I know what this is. I know the playbook. I know about the boardroom in 1954.
And that awareness, just that knowledge.
It breaks the spell. It gives you your power back.
The secret of selling the Negro was about exploitation. The real secret of 2026 is awareness.
Awareness is the antidote.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Spill the Real, right here on Sugarwater Radio.
If today's conversation hit heavy, that's because the truth usually does.
Yeah. What we talked about wasn't just history, it was a mirror.
A reminder that money has always meant power, and that ownership has always been the line they didn't want us to cross.
From 1954 to 2026, the tactics changed, the platforms changed.
The language definitely changed.
But the core question stayed exactly the same. Who owns the culture? Who controls the money?
And who benefits in the end?
If this episode made you uncomfortable, that's not a bad thing at all.
No, that means the message landed where it was supposed to.
And this conversation doesn't stop here. Make sure you check out the video version of this where we go even deeper with the visuals, the context, all the receipts, because seeing it really makes it hit different.
Subscribe, follow, and please share this episode.
Don't let the algorithm bury conversations like this one, because that silence is exactly what keeps these systems running.
And if you believe in independent media, in real conversations, in platforms that don't have to answer to corporate comfort, please support the movement.
Donations are what keep Sugarwater Radio alive. That's Cash App, Sugarwater Radio.
Every single contribution helps us protect the truth. Big love to the whole Sugarwater family, all our supporters, and everyone out there who refuses to just be a consumer in a system that was designed for extraction.
This is Dana Lewson.
And Mark Miller reminding you, don't just hear the truth, understand it.
Until next time, stay sharp, stay real.
And never forget, awareness is power.
We're out.
Here is what sales psychologists have to say about selling to the Negro.
The secret of selling to the Negro is expressed in one word. That word is recognition. Now, there's nothing unusual about that. People want to be recognized. They need recognition. That's basic in all of us. But perhaps because he's had so little of it, the Negro needs even more. He needs to feel important and appreciated. This need is a very real and important one. It shows up even in many of the Negro's shopping habits. Anyone who sells or wants to sell to the Negro customer should know about some of these habits. 3 habits in particular play a big part in every sales transaction. To begin with, most Negroes buy by brand. They ask for products by name. They're quick to turn down off-brands. You see, for a long time, the Negro has been sold a lot of shoddy, second-class merchandise. So now he asks for name brands in order to make sure he gets his money's worth. Buying by brand, that's the first important Negro buying habit. Now for the second. The Negro buys good quality merchandise. Symbols of quality and prestige are very important to the Negro customer. This woman, for example, is buying fine crystalware. But she is also buying the admiration and approval of her friends and relatives. It's a well-known fact that many Negro customers are influenced by the opinions of others. What their friends may think of a certain item often decides whether or not the sale is made. So remember, the Negro buys quality merchandise. That's the second important point. And here's the third thing to remember when selling to a Negro customer. When he specifically asks for one thing, don't try to sell him something else. Don't try to switch him at the point of sale. If you do, he'll probably react something like this.
Doesn't he think I've got the money to pay for it?
There's a reason for this reaction. Again, because he's had experience with cheap merchandise, the Negro resents being offered a substitute. He wants to be sold on quality, not price. The Negro buys by brand, he buys quality, and he doesn't like to be switched at point of sale. These are the keys to selling the Negro customer. Another point. The Negro family does things together, as a group. The family works as a unit. It lives as a unit, and it buys as a unit. When you sell to one member, you many times sell to all. It's also true that many places of entertainment are still closed to the Negro. So he spends more of his money for the things that are available to him, often for items that are considered luxuries. Another trait of the Negro market is the fact that it is a pre-sold market. We know that the Negro buys by brand, and he buys the brands that he knows something about. Where does the Negro buyer get this information? We know that Negro customers are turning more and more to the publications that are tailored specifically to their needs, that give them the news and the information that they want to read about. Many leading businessmen and companies already know this. That's why so many of them are taking this direct, sure route of reaching the Negro customer. The vice president of advertising of the Gruen Watch Company, for example, says this.
In many important cities throughout the United States, Negro